junction up here at the crossroads. Basically, the N59, same route more or less we would have taken from Galway City this morning. When we get to the junction, we're going to turn to our left towards a little village called Recess, and from there we'll make our way back to Mam Cross, if you remember it from this morning. Now, as we start to make our way over to the junction here, we'll be heading southwards into the south of the Connemara region. Now, you will notice quite a bit of where the peat harvesting has been done earlier on this year itself. You will notice the likes of the, you can see the stacks of the peat there. So that's what the guys, once it'll be fully dried, they gather it all up and they put in stacks like that, and of course they can use it then as they need through the winter or whatever. Anyway, I'll talk to you again just by the time we get to the junction up here itself, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the junction here, the N59. We're going to go to our left here over towards that little village of Recess, which is a kilometre up here to our left hand side. Now, as we turn to our left, straight away over here on the right hand side, you can see him behind the wall. That was the railway station there for the little village of Recess. Now, for the length of time it was in service here, covered quite a big area from there, all the way back to Kylemore. Of course, the National Park area is my yard, and beyond that as well. Now, when the railway track was laid here, it was just here to our right hand side. You see the flat area there along by the lake shore there, to the right. Now, before the railway service actually opened up here between Galway City and Clifton back in 1895, when the tourists came to the west of Ireland, Galway City more or less was as far west as they were able to travel. The journey out here for them would have been totally impossible. No roads to speak of, and certainly no form of transport to take them around safely. So when the trains started rolling back here, even though in the very beginning, the numbers were very small, but that didn't matter because it opened up a whole new life to this part of Connemara, as you can imagine. And it wasn't really until those people that came in the beginning that they actually went back home and they started telling the story of this beautiful place called Connemara, west of Galway City itself, that things began to happen. The numbers started to increase, getting bigger and bigger, slowly but surely, year after year, they get bigger, until they were actually coming back here in quite large numbers. And those people were spending quite a bit of money as well. Now maybe they want to stay over, a couple of nights, they just go for the meal or the drink or the humble cup of tea. So all of the little hotels, bed and breakfast, and of course the little tea rooms as well, they all started popping up here and there along the route. So when that happened, they needed people to work those locations straight away. And naturally enough, the people that got those jobs were the locals here. Now the locals themselves, they wouldn't have had a day's work ever up and down, because as I said to you earlier on the other side of the region, there was absolutely nothing. There wasn't a stick of work for anybody back here. Now they would have had their own small farms, and I mean small, so that wouldn't take very long to sort out. So when they started working, they were making a wage. So that meant they may have had a few pound in their pocket at the odd weekend, so that they could do a bit of travel with their children. Now the travel for them back then certainly would have been small, maybe one Saturday in the month with their children back to Clifton, when the amusements would be in town. They got some absolutely fantastic beaches back there as well, absolutely beautiful. So that certainly would have been a nice little treat for them. Now things were going reasonably well here for years. Now the railway service that ran fairly successfully here as well for years, but when they started to build the roads from the city out into the country here, that kind of spelled the beginning of the end for the railway service, because the further they came out with the roads, building the roads, the further the road traffic was able to come out. And what really brought the curtain down, I suppose, on the railway service here was the advent of buses. When the buses appeared on the scene, that was it, well and truly, lights out for railway service, because people started changing from travel by rail over to travel by bus day after day. And the reasons for that are very, very simple. Firstly, it was a lot cheaper to travel by bus back then, and secondly, there may have been a few more runs between the city and the country here by bus during the course of the day, whereas if you travel by rail, there was only one train out of Galway City in the morning, if they got it going of course, and one in. So you would have the very same thing again in the evening, return. So you travelled by rail back then, you're either in the city for the day or you're out in the country here for the full day. Now that suited a lot of people. Others that didn't, those that didn't, they changed to travel by bus. And then all of a sudden, that railway service that was running successfully for years was running at a loss. And of course that don't suit anybody. It certainly wasn't suiting them. So they closed down that rail service between Galway City and Clifton back in 1935. All of the railway track was lifted and sold to the Krupp's company. Now the rail track would have been there on the right hand side for quite a bit of the journey back to Mam Cross itself. Now talking of Mam Cross, that's where we're going to head for, guys, and I'll talk to you again just as we start to get to the junction itself up here.